Bonnie, and this is the Tarot Table with Bonnie and Peter, where we lay the cards on the table and talk about life, tarot, and everything in between. So shuffle your deck, pull up a chair, and join us at the Tarot Table. Welcome to the Tarot Table with Bonnie and Peter. I'm Bonnie, and today we're going to talk about intention setting with the tarot. So there's several ways that we can set intentions, and Peter and I thought that an interesting topic would be using the tarot to help you set an intention. So we'll talk a little bit about what an intention actually is, and then different ways that you can use the tarot to create an intention that's meaningful for you. And if you like this episode and this is something that interests you, I actually have a workshop on this. So it's coming up on October the 1st. It will be through Zoom. So you don't have to be in Canada to attend the workshop. And I'm actually going to lead the group in how to create an intention based on tarot cards that you've pulled. So it will be a personal intention that you'll create for yourself based on the tarot cards that you've pulled. You don't have to have a ton of tarot experience. You can actually even just look at the images on the cards to see what comes up for you. So I will guide you through all of that. I will guide you on how to create an intention for you. And then at the end of that, we will do a Yoga Nidra meditation that will help you to plant the seeds of that intention that you just created into the subconscious mind. So it's fascinating what you can do when you partner intentions with meditations, because when the body and the mind are relaxed, you're actually much more susceptible to change from the inside. Super powerful practice. So if you're interested in that, go to my website. The details are all there. And I hope to see you on October the 1st. And if you can't join live, you will, if you register before we go live, you'll get 2 weeks to watch the replay of the workshop and any information that we covered in the class. So that's my little plug before we get started.
That's fantastic. All right. I'm going to have to go sign up now. Intention setting. That's terrific.
Yes, it's called Tarot to Tranquility. Let me get the name right. Intention setting with Tarot and Yoga Nidra workshop. So it's an hour and a half, and it should be a lot of fun.
Excellent. And we'll put the information for people in the show notes as well. So wherever they happen to be watching, they'll be able to get that. That's great. That's great, Bonnie. Thank you for sharing. What a great way to start off a chat about intention setting with the tarot.
Yeah. And a really great time to set intentions is with the new moon. So the new moon is, about new beginnings, and it's a really powerful time to set intentions generally. And this workshop is actually going to be, we're doing the workshop the night before the new moon, which is actually the most potent time. So it's all in alignment with that. So what is an intention anyways, right? Like I think that word might be different for different people, but I think an intention, or like when you set an intention, it can really transform your daily life because it keeps your mind focused on positive actions and behaviors. So if we think about an intention, it's like a guiding principle in a sense for how you want to be, live, and show up in the world. I do believe there's a bit of a difference between intentions and goals. Goals often, they're centered usually around material things or things that we want in life, like something that we want to achieve or something that we want to acquire, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's how we need to live. We need to acquire things. But I believe an intention is more about how you want to feel, live, and show up again. So that can be a little bit different from a goal. Oftentimes when we want material items, we want them because they're going to make us feel a certain way. Like if I have that new car, that new car is going to make me feel a certain way, and I'm craving that feeling. So if we sort of unpeel the layers, it's like, well, the intention would be focusing on that feeling without having the need to have the car, if that makes sense, right? So I think that's a really beautiful way to show up and to focus on. And sometimes when you don't have an intention, we can sort of feel lost in the world. It's like we don't really know what we want, and we don't really know how we want to feel because we're so used to how we're feeling every day and how we're just functioning. So I think it's a really nice way to make space for you and to allow your heart to sort of speak to you in a way that maybe you weren't really listening before, or giving yourself that space to hear that message. So that's what I think about an intention. You can also look at it, it's like a positive affirmation. So I think affirmations and intentions go hand in hand. And again, you could put goal setting into that. It's all whatever works for you, but I stopped focusing on the need to want certain things because now I'm focusing on the feeling. Like, your intention can be as simple as I am happy or my life is joyful. And sometimes we think like you need something in order to be happy. So when you focus on the emotion of just being happy, and that is sort of your guiding principle moving forward, then I think those other things, they just fall into place a little bit easier. That's my take on intentions. What do you think, Peter? Am I out there?
No, it's not at all. I think it's one of those words where it allows people to, I don't want to say define them for themselves, but I would imagine that the scope in which we can define a word like intention is pretty broad. Because you had said, you work at trying to separate the idea of goals and intentions, and I would actually see them as somewhat related. So, I would talk about the idea of goals and intentions as being, I was going to say to be similar but different. But because to me, an intention is very much an I statement, and I think about the word intention starts with the letter I. So I always think it's a good reminder that an intention is a willful statement for something that we want or need. And the reason I said I would look at intentions and goals setting as similar is because the intention is us putting the energy, the desire, the will, the personal stake out there to the universe, and the goal is almost that end game. And we sort of, the starting journey might be the intention, the goal is where we end up, and then the action steps are everything that sort of happened in between. So for me, I think an intention is often action oriented in that it might just be, it might start with a statement. It might start with something that we state out loud, or something that we intentionally think. We structure a sentence together, and then it grows from there. The intention then turns into a goal. It's like, I am happy. Well, that's that idea of happiness. That intention statement might cause us to focus on a particular goal. It's like, well, I like this feeling. I am happy. What will happiness bring me? And then, well, what steps can I take to kind of to get there? So that's I would put intention setting in that goals, intentions, action all together. So I don't know. I don't think we're viewing it differently, but I think it, again, as I said at the very beginning, it's one of those statements that really do allow us to, to broaden how we approach it. And what we're going to do today is we're going to say, okay, well, because Bonnie and I have a slightly different definition of what intentions are, and we're going to talk about, well, how do we use the tarot to be able to do that, to be able to set intentions and work with intentions. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I do love what you're saying, and it does all come full circle. So if your
Mm,
intention would be something like I am happy, and you're focusing on the feeling of being happy, then there's probably going to be a lot of things that start coming to you
mm,
that you enjoy doing.
right.
Or it could be, well, what can I do to foster this feeling of happiness? And then because part of setting an intention too is making some action steps. Like it's one thing just to affirm something, but if there's something little that you can do
Mhm.
to sort of follow that intention. So if happiness is one of those things, then maybe you can start incorporating some things that really make you
Mhm.
happy, like reading a book. Maybe you feel like there's not enough time to do that, but oh, if I just read a little bit of
Mhm.
this book every night, reading makes me feel really good.
Right.
And then you start to embody that feeling of happiness, and then just everything starts to sort of come together. So definitely, I think
Oh yeah.
it all
Yeah. Yeah.
it all comes
Yeah.
together.
For sure.
Um, and the beautiful thing about using the tarot for setting intentions is that a lot of the time, and this was me many years ago, I didn't start working with intentions until 2017, when I actually took my Yoga Nidra teacher training. That's when I really learned about the power of intentions and sort of focusing on, something that you're really wanting to intend for your life. Um, Sometimes we don't really trust well, I don't want to say trust. So sometimes we use the conscious mind to think about the things that we
Right.
want. So again, that's where a lot of times we think about the material things, or like, I want that thing. And
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with wanting that. Absolutely. Um, and then, but how I like to set intentions is coming from the heart. Like, what does my heart really want? And a lot of times that will surprise you. If you take that time to go deep, listen to the heart and say, what does my heart truly want? Allowing that answer to come to you, you might be surprised at what comes up.
Mhm.
It could just be peace. It could just be freedom, like so many different things. And when you give yourself the space to listen to that, that can really be like transforming, right? It can like transform your life for sure. But sometimes we don't trust our intuition, or we listen to our heart and we're like, no, I don't think I really want that, or I just made that up. So a beautiful way to use the tarot is to say, like, what does the tarot have to tell me? And I do believe when I'm using the cards for myself, this is my own belief, it's like my higher self is
Mhm.
speaking to me through the cards, right? So I'll ask the tarot, like, what does my heart truly desire right now? And then I pull cards and then I see what story is unfolding. And that's how I create an intention. So now I'm not guessing, like, oh, do I really want that thing? Because it's being shown to me through the cards.
Right.
And over, the years of practicing with the tarot, I have that relationship. Like the tarot is like my friend, and it's always there for me, giving me these messages that I really value. So I think that's a really interesting way to set intentions. What do you think about that, Peter?
No, because it's funny. My relationship with using the tarot for intention setting, and the other word that you had used, and I'd forgotten about it, was when we talk about intention and goals and affirmation. The idea of, an affirmation sort of being an I am statement as opposed to an I statement. It's like, I'm affirming something about myself. That's probably where my work with this more broad intention setting started, and it was probably 20 years ago, when I kind of revisited working with the tarot and had started, kind of shifting a professional practice. And I actually found a tool, and I've talked to you about this before, but by Dr. Sally Hill. I thought I was going to say Susan Hill. Susan Hill, Sally Hill, Dr. Hill. Let's say enough. I think it's Sally Hill. Had created a deck with the Rider-Waite-Smith, which I was very familiar with, where each card in the deck had 5 or 6 or 7 I will or I am statements, like affirmation statements attached to it. And I was fascinated by that idea, the idea that the visual of the card, the essence of each tarot card could link to statements that support us when kind of moving forward in whatever it is that we're looking to do, or when we're trying to draw on a statement that, even something that, broad, like, I am enough. And I always think of that in the judgment card, and that link between judgment and world, the idea that, I am enough. That the fact that we can go into a deck and we can draw that card, or we can allow, the universe or divinity or our higher self to, at some point in time, show us that card when we're working with it, I also think is a very, very powerful practice. So I know for me, when I do work around intention setting with the tarot, I am also at times very intentional in my work. So I take that word intention and I probably work with it in a very different way. Although I do allow some of the randomness to come, from the tarot, that use of chaos, that use of shuffling, that questionable what does the universe tell me. I also go in with intention, sometimes with the idea that, I am looking to manifest this, and I know where this is represented in the tarot, and therefore I'm actually going to go and intentionally work with, card X, Y, and Z. No, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of where, that's where I would see the tarot as a tool, and I'm pretty specific around the times of year that I would do intentional work. You had mentioned the idea of new moon, and that would be, probably my primary time to work through, I'll say, small I intentions. I will do some work around the new moon or around the full moon as well. So, both kind of new moon and full moon. I would do some work around Samhain or around Halloween, around October 31st. And that's one of those times where I it might be the only time where I'm like, okay, I'm just kind of, I won't say handing over my agency, but I'm like, all right, tarot, here we are. You show me what it is I need. The idea that the veil is thin on that day, the idea that there's connections to spirit or ancestors or whatever it happens to be. I'll be like, all right, I'm not bringing anything to the table around this. You're gonna sort of tell me, what it is that I need to know at this point. And then around the idea of the calendar year, I would look at using the tarot as well for that. I would use it as that blend, intention setting, goal setting, affirmation, and using, our own calendar system, the year, the months, the seasons, to be able to work through the tarot with that. So I'm yeah, I'm intentional in my work around intentions with the tarot. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So
And again, we all have different ways of setting intentions or
mhm,
just being intentional, right?
yeah.
The other thing that I love to do with the tarot in terms of intention setting is if you're creating an intention based on what I usually use three cards. I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know if three is a great number for me. So I always pull three cards
Yeah.
because I like to overcomplicate my life. But once your intention is created, if that intention isn't directly reflected in the cards that you've selected, then you can go to the tarot and intentionally pick a card that really embodies the energy of the intention that you've created. So that's another thing that you can do with the tarot, and another way that you can anchor in that intention for you. So you can pull that card, you can keep that with you. Again, using it as a visual representation of what it is that how you want to feel, how you want to show up, and that's just a really great reminder.
Mhm.
Also, writing it down. If you've read any of my newsletters or my blogs, I'm very big on write down your intention because we think we're going to remember, and sometimes we do, most times we don't. Put it somewhere you're going to see it every day. And that's how, intentions, affirmations, that's how those things work when we're constantly reminded of what that is that we're intending. So, another way, sort of after you've created your intention, either using the card or the three cards that came up, however it is that you're going to create your intention, but having that card to represent that for you, and seeing a reminder. I have temperance on my desk all the time
Yeah.
because although my intention right now isn't about balance, but I do need to embody. It doesn't have to be all or nothing all the time, Bonnie. You can take that middle path, and there's always support for you. So I do have those around always as reminders for me, and how I want to feel,
Yeah.
and how I want to show up and live. So
It's a great, because I think we've talked about this in different ways, but very similar things, is that there are times when because of the random nature of the tarot, we can be asking for guidance in our intention setting. We can shuffle cards and draw one or two or three or five cards, however many cards that we draw. But then we can also go in and use those images to draw on the energy. And we had talked before, and not to belabor the point, but I had spoken about the idea of Three of Cups moments. And as a musician, and having, when we record this, we just recently did an annual gig that we love, and I had referred to playing as my Three of Cups moments. And I was so engrossed in the moment, I forgot to actually take a picture of what was sitting on my music stand, and are probably still in my gig. Well, they're still in my gig bag because I haven't taken them out, are two different iterations of the Three of Cups. So I actually
Mm.
had them there to be able to remind myself of the kind of energy that I was looking to bring forward. And it could, although I don't remember intentionally stating something like, I will celebrate this time on stage, or I will, look to enjoy, I will look to draw on joy from, the crowd or the audience, or my band members. The visual was a huge help, a
Mhm.
huge help to be able to remind me of the purpose of what I was looking to do and the intention I wanted to bring forward. So I don't know. I love that idea of being, because I think the word intention actually is a derivative of the word, or is linked to the word intentional as well, where we actually go and do something with purpose. Right? So
I'm going to embarrass you now, Peter, and do some fangirling, but this gig that Peter played at on the weekend, I had the pleasure of attending because it was in our local area. It was phenomenal. So if you ever have the
yeah.
opportunity to check out Peter's band, and you can say the name of the band
Yeah.
because I know it's
Stolen. Yep.
stolen,
Stolen.
but
Stolen the band on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
yeah, it was so much fun. They're amazing. I was singing and dancing and embarrassing myself, of course. And in my head, I'm like, that's my podcast partner. I was so impressed. So it was definitely a Three of Cups moment for
Yeah.
you. It was
Yeah.
in my own world, it was a Three of Cups moment. My kids were there, my husband was there. We had other family and friends that came with us. It was awesome. So that has nothing to do with this
Oh.
podcast today, but you have to check out Peter's band because he's more
No.
than just a tarot reader.
Well, but in some ways it certainly links to what we're talking about, because for me that was the idea of wanting to set the intention, because there are different ways to go about an event like that one. It could be, I'm nervous, or I'm like the energy that you bring. And it's not to say that nerves and anxiety, don't come into play, but when I think that the idea of setting an intention is almost crucial during those times, because when we aren't intentional in how we want to present ourselves, how we want to bring ourselves forward, then that airspace, the swords that can often be so challenging in the tarot, start to play with the situation itself. Oh, you're not good enough. Oh, you know what? No one's going to like that. Here, I'm going to be the Three of Swords and just jab three little swords in your heart. Like when we're not intentional, then I think that's where we can kind of run amok. And the reason I had
Mhm.
wanted to use the example was because I had spoken about this idea of Three of Cups in the past, and literally took both. I used my universal weight, which is a brighter colored version of the tarot deck, because there are cards missing from it. So I had the Three of Cups, and then I used an old version of my Gilded Tarot as well, and had them up there, because I liked the images, and they do that. So when we talk about, and we will talk about how we would specifically use the tarot at what time, keep in mind that sometimes just pulling a card that brings forward the intention that you're trying to create can be a very powerful, and I think I've used the word talisman. It can be a very powerful intention setting talisman to help you move forward, to help you to kind of face whatever it is you're looking to face, to help you do so with the energy and intention you're looking to set. So, and I'm good. I'm glad we had I think there were about 170 people there, and I think everybody had a Three of Cups moment for a bit there, so it's good. I
It
know
was so fun.
I did.
And we're hearing songs that, I haven't heard in 30 years.
Yes, we are an '80s cover band for the most part. So, as we record this in 2024, the '80s, somebody reminded me, are like 40 odd years away, and it's like, yes, yeah. So the songs are pretty well known, but unique in
Mm,
some ways too. So, anyways, we'll
yeah,
we'll
it was
we'll
so
we'll
fun.
move on. We'll move on from
We'll
that.
move on.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do want to acknowledge what you just said about intention setting doesn't have to be like this grand thing. So I love that you're bringing that up, that you can just use it for the moment. And we talk about this all the time in our podcast about intentionally pulling a card to embody the energy of that card for the day. So while I do believe that when you create an intention for yourself, keep that intention and let that evolve. That may change for, like, the wording may change, or there may be a nuance that it just gets a little bit different. That's okay. But if we're constantly changing our intentions all the time, then we're still not focused on something. But what I do recommend is that if at a certain point during the day or something, there is, like, there's something that you need to do, and you're afraid and you need some courage, or you need some inner strength, or
Mhm,
you need some compassion, pull the card that embodies that energy for
mhm.
you and use that in the moment. So, thank you for the reminder that intentions don't always have to be this grand thing, although I think that's important to have.
Right.
But along the way, you could just have an intention for that day or for that moment. Like
Mhm.
the other day, I was writing my newsletter. I think I had 7 cards that I pulled. I was like, okay, I need the Chariot. I need the King of Swords, right? Like I was pulling all these
Mhm.
cards, and I'm like, you're going to help me.
Mhm.
And that makes such a big difference
It
because you
does.
don't feel so alone. Like you
Right.
have this support around you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's a brilliant way of putting it as well, right? And you've got these familiar people, really, in a lot of ways. If you're talking about the King of Swords and you're talking about the Chariot, and you talk about the idea of compassion and strength. So you've got the Empress card, and you've got strength itself. My goodness, when you can draw on the archetype of strength and the visual of the archetype of strength when you need strength, there are very few more powerful talismans that you can draw from, and you've got them in a little box or cloth, or bag, sitting nearby. So yeah.
it's so powerful, and I'm loving the evolution of this for me because it did sort of start off as like learning the tarot to help me with make decisions and stuff. And now, even though I still do that as my daily practice, I am embodying the energy of pulling cards to help me just get through things or deal with things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, do you have anything else you want to talk about for intentions?
Well, I just and it probably highlights, in some ways, some of the different ways that we go about it. And I think what I'd want to do is if because for me the timing is important, and obviously I think most people know my wife is an astrologer. Astrology would play a big part in kind of what we do here from a timing perspective. So I think if you have an affinity to something like astrology, and I know that some of our listeners certainly do, the tarot lends itself really well to blending with other modalities also. And, you would talk about the blending of meditation, yoga, and the tarot. Again, right? Great companions to kind of work together. I think when we talk about the idea of new moon being a great time to be able to set intention, and then I think, well, if you are familiar with astrology, I would state, you could take it one step further. You could look at, well, if I'm looking at the new moon, well, what signs are involved? Is there any timing involved? Is there an aspect that's being done by either the moon, or some planets that are nearby? What about an ingress, which is, when a planet or when the moon, for example, changes from one sign to another? All of those important astrological events that can then come into play. And I'll explain what I mean by that. Let's say, well, Aries, first sign of the zodiac. If I've got a new moon in Aries, for example, then Aries is a time where, new adventure, it's bold, it's a fire sign, new business, new action. So if I'm looking to set an intention, and I know that the new moon is sitting in the sign of Aries, then I might look at my intention being that that's a good time to set an intention for Aries type things. And then when I think about the astrological connections to the tarot, well, I think about what card is connected to Aries. Well, it's the Emperor. Again, what a great time, great card to use about taking charge of, taking command of, exerting my authority over something, an intention I'm trying to set. The other thing, because I would look at ancient or Hellenistic astrology, I would look at Mars as the ancient ruler of Aries. Well, what card is associated with that? It's the Tower. So I might say, well, how can I look at using the Tower? Might I be using that to talk about an intention that breaks down a foundation that's not working for me? Then I would look at Aries and think, okay, well, what are the three cards that are associated with the decan of Aries? Well, again, I know that it's the two, the three, and the four of wands because it's the first sign of the zodiac, which are the two, threes, and fours, cardinal sign. And then it's wands, which is fire. So I know it's the two, three, and four. And I don't want to go into a ton of detail. I'll actually have some details around a workshop that I'll be doing around this sort of work to lead into the new year. But for those of you who have an affinity to other modalities and other systems, the tarot can blend well with them. So I use an example for astrology. Bonnie has been talking about yoga and meditation. It might be numerology. Um, but there are ways that you can blend the work that you do around setting intention with things like breath work or movement with yoga or meditation or timing work with astrology that might just make that much more powerful for you because it's blended into your own personal practice. So that'd be the only thing I think I would add. For me, a lot of times that, and I've talked about Samhain as well, which, would be one of the 8 points of the year. I've talked about the new calendar year as well, which again is important around timing, as spaces for use around intention setting, because that timing piece is also one that is of personal importance to me. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that makes sense or not, or, that was,
No, absolutely. And I think another thing as well. So if we're talking about, well, you mentioned numerology, so you just
I knew I'd be leading, right?
I love
Yeah.
numerology. I started studying numerology to help me understand the tarot better, and it opened up a whole new world for me. So with numerology, you have your own numbers, and then you have like a year number. So what you could do. So if you know that you're and then you can combine
Mhm.
the number with tarot, and that's what I absolutely love. So numerology and tarot for me go hand in hand. A lot of that is reflective in how I actually read the tarot. But we'll just use the hermit as an example. If you're going into a 9 year, which is the hermit, you could even pull cards to help you, like, well, okay, so this might be a year of introspection. With a lot of nines, it's about releasing and being okay with allowing things to let go of things so new things can start. And then pulling cards to see, like, how can I best use the energy in this 9 year to move forward. So that's a little bit going
Yeah.
down another tangent. But again,
Mhm.
in terms of timing, yeah, like using the cards to sort of give you a little bit more information to help you with the energy that will be around you for that specific year. And then if you're looking at from an astrological perspective, it's the same thing. It's just looking at the planets, or I'm
Yeah.
not well versed in astrology.
But it's a
One thing.
way, and I always think too, for those of our listeners who are well versed in the tarot, but looking at ways to deepen their practice, connecting it with other correspondences, or other systems that often correspond in some way to the tarot is a great way to broaden your practice. I want to state, though, for those of you who are either new to the tarot or who are just toying with the idea of using the tarot as a tool for intention setting, you don't have to do any of the things that we've talked about,
No.
right? This is, an opportunity for people who are going, oh yeah, I understand the idea of intention setting, and I also have an affinity towards astrology or numerology, or some other, I'll say esoteric system that blends itself nicely with the tarot. Then use that. I haven't said this in a few episodes, but you do you. is a great sort of expression whenever it comes to tarot practice. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
this is
knew
just
full
all.
well that you would take the numerology bait and go with
You
it.
said
So
numerology. I
I
went,
totally did. I knew that. I knew this because it's not, for me, I certainly use the idea of numbers with like calculating the idea of your year card. Funny you talked about the Hermit because the upcoming year, 2025, will be the year of the Hermit. Two plus
mm,
zero plus two plus five is nine. Nine kind of being the Hermit-based year. We're now in the year of Strength. Um, so all of those kinds of things can really, help when you're looking to either set intention or to just draw on that that energy, that meaning of the card to help you move forward. So
yes. Okay, shall we pull a card?
yes, yes. And I think we're both using different decks today, are we not?
Yes. So when we're recording this, it's near the end of September. And for those that don't know, I absolutely love Halloween. When I was pregnant with my youngest daughter, she was due in November, and I was like, "Oh, please come a little bit early so that you could be born on Halloween." And when I was younger, I had dreams of getting married on Halloween, so I could wear this like black dress. Like, I love Halloween, so I'm going to be using the Trick or Treat Tarot
Nice.
by Barbara Moore. I love this deck, so it's a little early, or some may argue that it's not a little early, but I'm
I've
going
got
to use
I
this.
got friends of mine who would be, like bite your tongue. They would be all over the fact that Halloween is X number of days away, and they'd be already starting
Well,
to
it's
focus.
funny. I started thinking about why I love Halloween so much. I think that you have permission to be whoever you want to
Correct.
be on
I agree.
Halloween.
I
And
agree.
it's this like, yeah, it's just a permission slip. Like, you want to be something
Mhm.
creepy and gory, go ahead. Oh,
I bet.
you want to
I
be
bet.
some like glamorous, whatever that
I
is, go ahead. Like,
I agree.
it's so fun. And I think as we get older, we have
Mhm.
less and less of these
Mhm.
moments of just like having fun for the fun of it. So, ever since I was little, I've loved Halloween.
Me
So,
too. Me too. I would also say it's probably my favorite of the commercial kind of holidays. I love Halloween. Our house, and we live in an old home as well. I decorate the heck out of our house at Halloween. I want to
me
make sure.
too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, in where you live, they have we do this every year with the kids. There's a whole bunch of houses
Correct.
that get decorated for
Yeah.
Halloween, and then they have a contest to see,
Oh,
who
yeah.
wins best house. And we drive all through the path because they post that.
Mhm.
I love that. It
Yes.
makes me,
It
yeah.
is. It has never been my house, although it will be at some point in time. Not this year, unfortunately, because I won't be home on Halloween, but on a future year for sure. Because again, I will say it's an old Victorian home that could easily be done up a little bit creepy, and I certainly do, but not to the extent of the ones that are on the house tour for sure. So, all right, you going to draw first then?
Sure, I'll draw first. And what I will do is the card that I pull, I will look at it from an intention
Oh,
setting
okay. All
perspective.
right.
So we'll see
All
what
right.
comes up.
Pressure's
Um,
on. I'll try the same thing,
pressure's on.
but
Okay. Okay, so I'm shuffling. Oh, I got one. And it just popped out. Oh my gosh, this is like one of the creepiest cards in this deck. That's
well, there
so
you go.
funny. Okay, so I pulled, oops, the Page of
Oh, wow.
Pentacles.
Wow. Yeah.
So if you're watching, you can see the card. If you're listening, it has kind of like a creepy bunny, like a
Mm,
skeleton bunny. And he's grabbing some like brains. This is like food. So somebody who's made food to look like brains from a cooler.
right.
Okay, so this is kind of interesting for the Page of Pentacles, but if I'm going to look at this from an intention setting perspective, pages often bring messages of new beginnings. So this is something that's new. When we think about pentacles, it's those material things in our life. It's our bodies, it's our career, it's being grounded to like really connecting to nature, that earth element. So I would look at this for me. or for whoever's working with the card, which one of those areas is prevalent for you now and what makes sense to create an intention based on that. This could even be starting a health routine. So, because pentacles are related to the physical body, if there's something that you're wanting to do in terms of maybe starting an exercise program or just getting more movement into your day, it could be, I love to exercise, or exercise is fulfilling, or I look forward to moving my body every day. If you're going to use it from that context of the body, if there's something material that you're wanting in your life, or maybe wanting to change careers, for example, it could be, oh, I have my dream job. Even though you don't have it, affirming that you have your dream job actually helps create the conditions so that that job can come to you. So something around, I'll often look at the element. What is the energy of that element, and then creating an intention based on that. Because it's a new beginning, it could be, or it could be I like am starting something. So yeah, that's what I would say for the Page of Pentacles. For me, movement is really important to me,
Yeah.
something that I haven't been doing. So if I were to pull this card for myself, I would definitely create an intention based on the joy of movement every day. And movement can mean anything for anybody. It doesn't have to be like vigorous exercise that's exhausting. It could literally be going for a walk every day, doing a fun dance, putting on your favorite song and moving. So
Mm.
that's what I would do
Wow.
if I got the Page of Pentacles.
Okay. The only thing I would add, and you might hate me for this because I'm going to use your words against you, but somebody had mentioned to me that the pentacles were also a suit of gratitude. Um,
Yes.
so, so what I
I
think
wonder who that was.
I don't know. So I think what I would probably do is I would use the opportunity as well to possibly do a statement of gratitude as well. So I am grateful for, and then something again related to the concepts of the page and the Page of Pentacles. So I'm grateful for, I love the idea of a new routine because I'm the same. I often think that idea of a new workout routine, new health routine sits inside the Page of Pentacles, or the concept of it does. The action of it would sit in the Knight of Pentacles. So it might even be, the idea of setting your intention with, because that first step is setting the intention. So how appropriate is that to have the Page of Pentacles as a card to draw from when we're looking to set an intention. So that's the only thing I would have added would have been would have been using your own words, is the idea of pentacles, only because it makes so much sense, because the idea of being grateful for is one of the first steps of allowing us to ground ourselves in that space where we are. So grounding is that pentacle suit. So when you said that, really resonated with me, and I've kind of kept that close as sort of a new or an added meaning for pentacles. So it was close to the surface there. So that's why I added
Yeah. Well, thank you for that reminder. Yes, because that is often how I see
it. Yeah.
pentacles. And, your
Me
intention
too
could,
now.
yeah. And your intention could really even just be, I love my body, right? Like
Yeah.
starting there,
Yeah.
or I appreciate my body.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, everything starts with gratitude. Actually, I have a quote from Oprah that I wrote down. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, so this is from Oprah Winfrey. If you look at what you have in life, you'll always have more. If you look at what you don't have in life, you'll never have enough. So, mic drop.
There you go. Yeah. And a musician quote around mic drop is, the only people who drop mics are those who have never bought one.
Yes. Yeah. Or how about when people smash guitars up? I was at a Post Malone
Yeah.
concert. He was playing his guitar and then I saw it. I'm like, don't smash the
I know.
guitar.
Although you got to figure
Why?
there's enough
Why do
money
they
there.
do that?
I don't know.
It breaks my heart.
I know. All
It
right.
breaks my heart.
I'm going to do a draw. I'm going to use a brand new deck. As a matter of fact, it's not only is it a brand new deck to use here, it is a brand new deck, one that I just picked up only a few weeks ago. But I thought I'll use it because, as you mentioned, Halloween is not that far away. When we drop this episode, we're actually going to be a day away from the equinox. So autumnal equinox, here in the northern hemisphere, spring equinox for those who are listening in the southern hemisphere. And this deck is called the Nightfall Tarot deck. It is by someone who, oops, I've got the box here somewhere. Oh, Amori Abbott is either the author and creator of the deck, and the deck is in shades of black and white. So I thought that's an
Mm.
interesting way to use a deck at a time when the balance between dark and light is at its closest. So, the equinox is a time when, where days and nights are their kind of, they're not always equal, but they're as close to equal for wherever you happen to live geographically. So I'm going to shuffle this one and I'm going to draw. So I'm going to draw a card, which is really interesting. I'm not going to show it yet. I'm going to test before we started the recording the podcast. Bonnie and I'll say we try and plan the podcast. We really don't. We end up just catching up since the last time we got the podcast. And I actually talked about, and I've talked about this. I talked about the idea of the three of cup moment. And I said, I wonder if I'm now moving and I'm being stuck. What card did I refer to?
Four of Cups.
I referred to the Four of Cups, funny enough, which is exactly the card that I drew. So, the tarot is kind of like paying attention. So the Four of Cups. So I think what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about, and I've been thinking about this card all week. So often it's a card about, because we've talked about this in the fours, we talk about this being a card of contemplation and about reflection. It's not a card of significant movement. I'll put it down, but how I related to this card, so where I'll go with my interpretation because of the time I drew it from is a reminder. This person is also focused on three cups. So there are times when we get stuck on past celebrations and we're like, oh my goodness, what a great time it was. And we almost get melancholic. And the reason I've been thinking about this card all week, so funny that I draw it, is that the band I'm in, we got a WhatsApp chat and we were talking, and people were actually starting to feel that letdown feeling because our big kind of annual gig that we do is done and
Mm.
we don't have anything in the books for quite some time. So we're all kind of like, oh, wasn't that wonderful? Oh, it was great. Oh, I miss it. Oh, I miss you guys. And we're like the person in this picture, we're sort of stuck focused on the three cups. And what we're missing is the offering that's coming behind us. So in this instance, for me, it might be, we've got our renewed rehearsal schedule. We've got new material that we're going to be focused on. We do have, new events coming up in our booking calendar. So the card is a reminder, stop focused on that celebratory moment. It happened and it's great and it can live on in memories, but don't get so focused on it that you're missing the things that are being offered. That Ace of Cups moment that's kind of floating in the background. I keep holding up the card for those who are watching it. For those who are not, we have three cups sitting on the ground and the person with their back up against the tree is focused on those three cups. And what they really can't see is the one cup that's being offered behind them. Sometimes, it's often seen as the Ace of Cups sort of being offered behind. Um, so if I was looking at, and now you put the pressure on, so you might have to help me here around setting intentions. It might be, um, it might be, am, I
I welcome new
I welcome,
opportunities.
right? Yeah. But I want to honor the joy. I enjoyed the moment, the Three of Cups moment, and welcome new opportunities that present itself. Or it might be something as simple as, I turn around and welcome the new opportunity for joy that is presenting itself through that Ace of Cups. But this is an area where Bonnie has a significantly greater, skill set than I. So I'm going to look for you as well. So what would you do? You got the Four of Cups here. What kind of intention are you looking to set? We've got it. Yeah, go ahead. There's,
I I I completely 100% agree with everything you just said. And really what I would say is what I just said. I welcome new opportunities, right? Sometimes we're blocking that, right? And we could be blocking that because we're not focused on new
Mhm.
opportunities because we are focused on how great that party was, or, oh, I don't know what's coming up next. Um, so the idea of really being open, or
Yeah.
I am open to new
Yeah.
opportunities. I am open to receiving gifts. If you
Hmm.
think about that Ace of Cups as a
Correct.
blessing, as a
Yeah.
gift that's being presented to you, I openly receive gifts, or I welcome new gifts into my life, or um, I I like broaden my horizon. Like
Yeah.
whatever you
Mhm.
can think about that helps you to be able to see things that you can't see, or to welcome these
Right.
opportunities, creating something around that energy for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And then I'd even add, now that you've got me thinking, I'd think, well, what suit am I in the in the tarot? So I'm in the suit of cups, and then I might say something like, my heart welcomes new opportunities, or I am open to new relationships. I am open to new connections. Am opening myself to the next new celebration, all of those kinds of things as well, right? Because that idea of vulnerability and emotional openness is a cups related subject. So,
Yes, exactly. And because it's the suit of cups, again, you can go and look at the energy of cups. What is cups? Cups is emotions, cups is
mhm,
relationships, cups is love, cups is intuition. So maybe
correct.
this could be an opportunity for you to, be open to strengthening your intuition with the tarot. Hello. Um,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
so again, it doesn't just have to be the message from the card, although that's kind of what, we were focusing on. But then as you were talking, I'm like, yeah, look at what does cups mean for you? And you can bring in that Ace of Cups. You could even grab the Ace of Cups and be like, what's in this cup?
Cup.
What is it that my heart really desires right now? And be open to that. And if you don't know what that is, then welcoming a sign, or welcoming, yeah, a new relate that is perfect for a new relationship. I welcome a new relationship into
Mhm,
my life,
mhm.
because sometimes we're blocking that and we don't even realize it. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Great. Lovely insight. Thank you. Thank you for your help and support as well. I welcome your help and support as I
you helped
create the
me.
intention for this card. So,
Thank you.
uh,
Okay, Peter. So, where can people find you?
well, always at peterwhitetarot.com or Peter White Tarot on Instagram and on Facebook. What I would invite you to do is sign up for my newsletter. So when you pop onto my website, either head to the very bottom of the page. If you pop up there for the first time, there should be a box that shows up to invite you to sign up for my newsletter. Because as we talk here about the idea of intention setting, um, I will be, then this is where you can find out, I will be launching a brand new, I'll say, intention goal setting. So the idea of looking ahead, working with planning for the year 2025 through the tarot. And that's a 3-part online workshop that'll be offered probably mid-November, early December. It will be live, offered through Zoom. And what we'll do is we'll talk about how we can use the tarot to set to set intentions, um, throughout the course of the year. So, we'll look at the energies of the year itself through the tarot. We'll look at the energies of each sort of quarter or each season, and then we'll look at the monthly energies, both from a numerological perspective through the tarot, and then through that random sort of chaos draw, that the tarot is so good for. But best way to find that out would be either through following me on my socials, or better yet, registering for my newsletter. So, how about you,
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes. Well, after you sign up for Peter's newsletter, you can go and sign up for mine. I
Or
actually,
before, or before.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I actually create an intention every month. So the bulk, I guess, of my newsletter, the main energy around that is creating an intention. So I do a 3-card reading. I post a blog about that, and then I create an intention based on the energy that comes up from those 3 cards, and I send that out in a monthly newsletter, as well as other things that I have going on. Another thing that you'll get when you sign up for my newsletter is access to a free yoga nidra meditation, and you use your intention during the meditation. You can either allow the intention to come to you as you're listening. It will guide you through how to do that. Or if you already have your intention, then as you listen, it really helps to plant that seed. And every time you listen, it just, gets planted a little deeper. You're nurturing that seed, you're watering that seed. So, a really great way to work with an intention. So, oh, right. But how can you find me? You can go sign up for my newsletter somewhere on the internet. I am, my website is breathewithbonnie.com, and I'm on Instagram at breathewithbonnie. So everything is there.
Yep. And everything will be there in the show notes, wherever you happen to be watching or listening. And wherever you happen to be watching or listening, we want to extend a huge thank you. Please, as well, if you like what you hear, share it with someone else or comment, like, subscribe. We are thrilled that you have decided to join us here at the Tarot Table. I want to say again, thank you and so long.
Bye.